Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we are tackling a massive, incredibly misunderstood internet legend. We are digging into the whole Skinwalker reality real or fake debate, untangling a wild web of internet folklore, pop culture branding, and deep cultural history. Grab your notebooks, because we're tearing down the digital myths to figure out what's actually going on here.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The big question we're answering today is literally, Skinwalker reality real or fake? Like, do the monsters haunting our social media algorithms actually have any basis in reality, or are they just, campfire stories that got a massive digital upgrade?
Listen, if you've spent even 5 minutes on the spooky side of the internet, you've definitely seen the fake reality. There are hundreds of thousands of TikToks and YouTube videos slapping the hashtag Skinwalker on just about anything weird in the woods. You know the ones. A guy in a creepy deer skull mask, a weird trail cam noise, and boom, the comments are screaming, Skinwalker. Pop culture has totally morphed this into a generic Hollywood-style cryptid, just another demonic alien hiding behind a tree. But spoiler alert, that is completely wrong.
Section 1. The Real Navajo Skinwalker.
So, stepping entirely away from the internet creepypastas for a second, in traditional Navajo culture, the actual term is Ye Naldlushi, which roughly translates to, by means of it, it goes on all fours. And here's the absolute game changer. This specific Navajo term refers to a type of harmful witch known as Anchiani, okay? So we're no longer talking about some wild supernatural beast living out in the forest. We are talking about a human being, a person who has actively chosen to use their spiritual knowledge to harm their own community.
This perfectly highlights the massive divide between the myth and reality. Think of it like this. On one side, you have the internet monster, this alien, demonic Hollywood creature. On the other side, the traditional witch, a corrupted, very real human. In Navajo beliefs, these witches are the absolute antithesis of their values. While medicine men use spiritual forces to heal and bring balance, a Yi Naldloshi perverts those exact same forces, using dark, manipulative magic for pure evil.
And the path to getting these powers? It's dark, like deeply wicked. It's not something you just accidentally stumble into. According to the research, a person first has to break profound cultural taboos. Ultimately, to achieve this dark magic, they literally have to commit the ritualized murder of a close family member, like a sibling. Only after that do they take the pelts of predatory animals, wolves, bears, coyotes, to take on their shapes and powers, which, by the way, is exactly why wearing predatory animal pelts is strictly taboo in Navajo culture.
To really grasp how seriously this threat was treated, we have to look at historical reality. The fear of these witches was so intense and so disruptive that it actually led to the Navajo Witch Purge of 1878, where 40 suspected witches were killed. This isn't just a spooky story to scare kids around a fire. This was historical reality with devastating, real-world consequences.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Skinwalker Ranch mistake.
So you're probably wondering, how did the internet get it so unbelievably wrong? Well, let's jump back to 1996. The Sherman family sells their 512-acre cattle ranch in northeastern Utah after dealing with some genuinely terrifying, unexplainable stuff. Then, Las Vegas billionaire Robert Bigelow buys the place, sets up the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS, and puts a 24/7 scientific team on the property. This team was led by biochemist Colm Kelleher, who later co-authored the book Hunt for the Skinwalker with journalist George Klock.
And the stuff this NIDS team documented? Absolutely wild. We're talking silent UFOs, multicolored orbs popping out of portals, bizarre magnetic anomalies, surgical cattle mutilations, and giant, literally bulletproof wolves. But the scientists noted something fascinating. The phenomenon behaved like a conscious, manipulative trickster. It actively avoided cameras and absolutely refused to perform on demand. But here is the crucial catch, and it's all about geography. That ranch in Utah? It literally borders the Uinta and Array Indian Reservation, which is historical Ute tribe territory. The Navajo Nation, where the Yenaldaloshi legend actually comes from, is in the American Southwest. That is 400 miles to the south. Researchers and the media essentially grabbed a scary-sounding Navajo brand name and slopped it onto a completely unrelated Ute phenomenon.
Now, Ute traditions do describe a shape-shifting entity, sure, but it is vastly different. The Ute entity is a primal, non-human trickster tied to the landscape, sometimes linked to the coyote in Great Basin mythology. It is not a human Navajo witch who murdered a family member. This geographical branding mistake by the media and later by huge TV shows created this perfect storm of confusion. It totally erased the Ute context while diluting and misrepresenting the actual beliefs of the Navajo people.
Moving on to Section 3. Wendigos are not skinwalkers.
Okay, while we're untangling these massive online mix-ups, if you take one thing away from this explainer, let it be this. Native American folklore is not just one giant monolith. The Skinwalker belongs to the Navajo, or Dene people, in the Southwest, representing a human practicing dark magic. The Wendigo, that originates from the Algonquin-speaking tribes all the way up in the northeastern U.S. and Canada, and it's a terrifying cannibalistic spirit. These are completely distinct cultural identities, separated by thousands of miles. They aren't just different versions of the same creature.
Section 4. Respecting the cultural reality.
Let's bring this back to the human element. How does the actual Navajo community feel about this? Because this misinformation isn't just harmless internet fun. It can be deeply offensive. For instance, a Navajo user on Reddit pointed out how massive authors like J.K. Rowling tried to incorporate this lore into their fantasy worlds, reframing skinwalkers as the good guys and traditional medicine men as fakes. That's a massive insult. It completely disrespects the vital balancing ceremonies of real medicine people who are still working in their communities today.
But honestly, the community's reaction is beautifully complex. That same Reddit thread shared an amazing, authentic quote from a set of Navajo grandparents. When asked about the internet getting the lore so totally wrong, they just said, well, good, it keeps the white people away from those horrible things. I mean, wow, the reality of these witches is so serious that some Navajo people actually appreciate the internet's confusion. To them, if the misinformation acts as a shield to keep outsiders far away from a genuinely dangerous spiritual reality, then the misunderstanding is actually serving a protective purpose. Pop culture loves the monster you encounter. You know, the external predator stalking you in the woods or stepping out of an alien portal. But the authentic cultural reality is so much more tragic and honestly way more terrifying. The Yi Nad Loshi is the monster you choose to become. The real horror isn't some glowing orb out in Utah. It is the absolute corruption of the human soul and the ultimate betrayal of a community. Which leaves us here. We've seen exactly how algorithms, book sales, and reality TV can flatten these rich, deeply nuanced histories into cheap, spooky content. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. Does our modern obsession with paranormal entertainment blind us to the real, living traditions of indigenous cultures? Next time you see that hashtag pop up on a spooky video, take a second and ask yourself what real human history is being hidden behind the myth. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.